WTIM.
You're listening to the WTIM morning show on your information station. It's sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Reed Kami, and I'll tell you what, if you're looking for some entertainment, mark your calendar for Saturday, March 21st at 7 o'clock, because at the Effingham Performance Center, there's going to be a performance of the show Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now, and just reading about it is certainly looking like something that it seems worth going to. And here to talk about that and much more is one of the performers, Laura Bell Bundy, a Tony-nominated performer, I understand. Laura, thanks so much for coming on this morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing just fine, and I look forward to hearing a lot more about this show that you've got coming up, Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now. I guess I'll just let you take it away for now and talk a little bit about the show and what folks can expect if they turn up there.
Sure. So the show is essentially centers around an over 20-year friendship between me, Tony nominee Carrie Butler, who's known for the musical Beetlejuice, the musical Mean Girls, and also Tony winner Marissa Jarrett Winokur, who won a Tony for her role as Tracy Turnblad in Hairspray. The three of us met when we originated the roles of Amber, Penny, and Tracy in Hairspray the musical over 20 years ago. And we sang the song Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now. So that's why we call the show Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now. But the show tracks our origin stories from childhood, how we got into the business, how we met each other, our first impressions of each other, doing Hairspray, fun stories about that. And then other stories about our lives and careers, finding love, and us becoming mamas ourselves. And we all became moms in different ways, so we talk about that. But the entire show is sort of told through song, and obviously there's a lot of comedy in it. I would say, obviously, I don't know if you would know, but the three of us are comedic actors, so there's a lot of comedy in it. We have a table full of props and wigs and changes, and there's gags, and we pull pranks behind one another. I mean, we have a good time. And but the show really takes you on a journey, and an emotional journey of our stories, each of our individual stories, but also our over 20-year friendship. And so, I think people enjoy coming to the show because they hear songs from oh my gosh, over 20 different Broadway shows. We do a Disney medley. We have something called a Mom medley, which is mostly pop songs but parodies of them. So it's fun because when people come to the show, they recognize these songs, and then the songs are used to tell a story that they actually don't know. So it becomes it's fun. People really go on a journey, and it's a really great show for families.
No, it sounds like it. And I mean, a lot of what you're saying, just it catches my attention, and maybe the same is true for some of our listeners right now. Now, I have a lot of different directions I could go with this, but you talk about like sort of telling your story and the story of the other performers in this show. And with what I've learned even just in recent years about stage acting and doing that sort of thing. I mean, it seems like it seems like a very transformative experience in ways that normally, if you're not a performer, you don't really get to witness. And now with this show, you kind of get an inside glimpse of it. Does that sound accurate?
Oh yeah, you're definitely hearing the inside scoop. I mean, you're you're hearing backstory information, funny stories that happen backstage. Something that Liza Minnelli said to Marissa Winokur that was hilariously unflattering. There are these little bits and pieces of fun detail that you get to hear. These things that no one would know, right? And so you get to peer into the world a little bit, and the world of Broadway. And also a little bit, Marissa and I have both done a lot of television. And so, Marissa won Big Brother even, and she's on What We Do in the Shadows. And I was on How I Met Your Mother and Heart of Dixie and Anger Management. And so, while we don't talk too much about our television career, if people know us from television, they get to see this part of our lives. So, yeah, it's fun. It's the backstory. It's the backstory, but it's told with the front story music.
That's a great way to put it. Backstory with the front story music. And something else you mentioned. So you talked a little bit about parodies of some songs. So it sounds like you're taking some of these, maybe well known songs, right? And then so are you essentially like writing new lyrics and then singing them to the tune of that song, like kind of about the story?
Yeah, so we have a mom medley about the woes of motherhood, and there's a joke that Marissa's basically never peed alone until her child was 10 years old, and she was in Big Brother when there were thousands of cameras everywhere, but there weren't any cameras in the bathroom, and that was the first time she had peed alone in 10 years. So that starts off a song where we sing. We start with "Wherever We Go," but it's got a different. It's basically you can't be alone when you're a mother, and we switch we have It's a Hard Not Life we put in there. How can I get time alone? So we basically utilize these pop songs or these Broadway songs to flip it and make it about being a mother, and that one's really fun. And then we actually do a little parody of a Lion King moment as we start our childhood medley. I do impersonations in the show, so I think started to sing. If I think about when I started to sing, which is when I was a child, really young, I think it all started because I was mimicking what I was seeing on TV or hearing on the radio. So like when I was 8, I could do like every character in Wizard of Oz. And so I do Judy Garland in our show. I do Dorothy. But I also do an impersonation of Julie Andrews in The Sound of Music. I do an impersonation of Celine Dion. So for me, I began my childhood part of our show is very much me just doing impersonations because that's really how I began to learn to sing. So there's just fun stuff. There's wigs, there's props, I tap in the show, I twirl a baton. A lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like it sounds like a lot of fun, and it also seems like it's something that'll kind of keep the audience guessing about what's going to come next, and that there are a lot of surprises at every turn in terms of like what the story is, aside from whatever part of the backstory they may already know, and how it's interpreted.
Yeah, there's, when you come, when we first started this show off, we were like, this is a concert. It's a concert with the three of us. It ended up evolving into a show. And in that, there's not a lot of, well, now I'm singing this song about XYZ and blah, 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 and let me sing this song. There's not any space like that. It moves fast. It's fast paced. It's joke after joke, then song that leads into another song. I mean, it really moves like an actual musical. And we did this. We got an opportunity to bring the show to New York, and we did a 6-week run in an off-Broadway theater called New World Stages, which is an amazing space. And we were nominated for a Drama Desk Award. Now, most people in Effingham, Illinois won't know what that is, but in New York, that's like a high honor for an off-Broadway show or a Broadway show to be nominated for a Drama Desk. So we were nominated for Best Review, and we were like, oh, we didn't even know we were eligible for that. We had no idea. So 6 months after our show had closed, we get this nomination we had no idea we were eligible for. But we also were put in the review category. So we're like, oh, that's what this show is. It's a review. And a review is essentially the type of show that has all kinds of different songs that someone might recognize. from, other musicals or pop music or whatever, but they're utilized to tell a different story. And that's really what's happening here.
Yeah, I mean that sounds exactly in line with what your show is about. Well, congratulations there on that nomination. It sounds like with everything you described, very well deserved. I'm talking right now with Laura Bell Bundy, a performer from Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now, which is coming to the Effingham Performance Center Saturday, March 21st at 7 o'clock. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk a lot more about the show coming up, and maybe hear a little bit more about Laura Bell Bundy herself right here on the WTIM Morning Show on your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
It's now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Saylor. Higher across the board with corn, beans, and Chicago wheat. May corn up a nickel, 457 1/4. July corn up 5 1/2, 468 3/4. New crop December, 485 1/4, up 5 1/2. May beans up 22 1/2, 1224 1/4. July beans up 22, 1237. And November new crop 1168, up 14 1/2. May Chicago wheat 595 1/4, up 4 1/4. July KC wheat 627 3/4, up 4 3/4. May bean meal 314.90, up 40 cents. May bean oil 68.56, up 2.94. Livestock trade March feeders 350.10, down 3.25. April live cattle down $1.47, 230.85. April lean hogs down 12 cents, 95.95. Energy market April crude oil up 203, 85.48. RFD Radio Network.
I'm Judge Wesley Gozia, and I'm asking for your vote for Circuit Court Judge in the Illinois 4th Judicial Circuit. I was appointed Circuit Court Judge by the Illinois Supreme Court. And every day I work to ensure every person is treated fairly, respectfully, and without prejudice. With over 15 years of courtroom experience, I understand how much these decisions matter. I'd be honored to earn your vote and support.
Looking for a comfortable lifestyle in a small community? Rolling Meadows Senior Living in Taylorville is now accepting applications for residency. They offer seniors 62 and older a smoke-free facility with round-the-clock maintenance, controlled access, large kitchens with full-size appliances, on-site laundry, Wi-Fi in common areas, and located close to shopping and dining. Call 217-287-2450 to schedule an appointment. Rolling Meadows is sponsored by Lutheran Social Services of Illinois and funded through U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and Federal Home Bank of Chicago. Rolling Meadows is an equal housing opportunity provider.
No taxes. No tax on Max Life mattresses. No tax on Arctic Breeze mattresses. No tax on all Bemco mattress sets. All month long, Just Beds will pay your sales tax on the entire Bemco product line in the store, even sale items. That Bemco mattress set you want? No tax. Max Life, Chatham and Wells, Arctic Breeze, or the new Copper mattress. No tax. All Bemco, all month, no tax. As always, free delivery, setup, and haul away. See the Yawn Exterminators at Just Beds on Montvale in Springfield.
Just Beds.
Your locally owned Scooters Coffee at routes 29 and 104 in Taylorville are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the WTIM Tornado Give Back promotion. Scooters Coffee will donate the following to the Taylorville Sports Boosters. For each Tornado varsity football touchdown, they're donating $10. For each three-point shot in varsity Tornado boys and girls basketball games, they're donating $3. And $5 for each home run scored by varsity baseball and softball team. The 22 local Scooters Coffee Taylorville thank you for your business. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast.
WTIM.
And we're back on the WTIM Morning Show on your information station. The show is sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Reed Kami, and I continue this fascinating conversation with Laura Bell Bundy, who's going to be performing in Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now. And that show will be taking place on Saturday, March 21st at 7 o'clock at the Effingham Performance Center. And we've been talking a little bit about the show so far. I'd love to get a little more into your background, Laura, because you've had a lot of stage performing experience. You've been nominated for a Tony Award, which is no small feat. So congratulations on that. Talk a little bit about you don't have to go through everything, but some of your personal highlights in your stage performing career up until now.
Well, I began performing professionally in New York City when I was 9 years old. I'm from Kentucky originally, and through a funny experience that I actually explain in Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now in the show, I came to New York. And I began to spend the summers in New York City from the time I was 6 till I was 9, just auditioning for, doing modeling and auditioning for commercials, and also going to see a lot of Broadway shows, but getting trained by vocal coaches there. And my mom would like stalk the teachers at this place called Broadway Dance Center, which is where a lot of Broadway instructors teach to teach me privates. And then when I was 9, I got my first gig, which was Radio City Music Hall's Christmas Spectacular, which has the Rockettes in it. It's one of those shows that a lot of tourists come to New York and they go see the Rockette show. So I was the little girl in that show. I was Claire in the Nutcracker in various roles. And then that led to me starring in a musical where I played a little girl who killed another little girl for a part in the show. It was a comedy. And Britney Spears was my understudy in that, actually. So I began to be involved very much in New York theater scene as a kid. I performed in my first gay pride parade at 10. It's not really something your average 10-year-old does. But then I went back to Kentucky for high school and had, a quote unquote normal life. And then I went back to New York. And so that's, I was on a soap opera called Guiding Light, which is no longer in existence. But that was a big sort of element for me because a lot of the work that I had done prior to that had been comedy work and musical theater work. And this was an opportunity for me to do something a little bit more dramatic. And I really enjoyed doing that show. It was like I was 18 to 20 when I did it, and it was like almost like I went to a college conservatory for drama. Even though when you watch a soap opera, sometimes you're like, "Wow, that's very overdramatic." I think it's really the music that makes it seem that way.
Yeah, exactly.
The background music is just horrendous, but the actors are really amazing, and I learned a lot from them. And then around that time, I began to develop Hairspray the musical. So I developed Hairspray for 2 years, along with Marissa. She also developed Hairspray, and then Carrie joined us later. And then Hairspray was a huge highlight. Hairspray was it was coming right out of September 11th in New York City. It was a year after that, or not even a year. When we opened, and New York was coming back, and people were really wanting to support New York City. And our show was kind of like the Hamilton of its day. It was completely sold out after the first preview for like a year. And it was so exciting to be a part of a musical like that. And I was 21 years old. I was the youngest adult in the cast, even though we were all playing teenagers. And it was a wild experience, and the show won a Tony. Marissa won a Tony, and we became a part of this wonderful, beautiful Broadway community that I've, been a part of for over 20 years now. And it's a really special, magical, creative community. And believe it or not, everybody really does kind of know everybody. And then years later, I did Wicked for a while. I played Glinda in Wicked, and then I did Legally Blonde, and I played Elle Woods, and Legally Blonde was the show that earned me the Tony nomination. But I would say that has really been such a massive career moment for me, because it was the first time I was originating a leading role on Broadway, and of course it was a lot of pressure to do that, but it was such a wonderful learning experience. And the crazy thing is, at the time, like, I guess, maybe a couple of months after we were open, like 6 months after we opened, MTV did a recording of the show. And that thing now lives on YouTube, an entire recording of Legally Blonde. Now, I think it lives there illegally, but there's no ads, so it's just on there. But the crazy thing is that because there are so many people around. There are so many people around the country doing Legally Blonde now at their community theaters or high schools or colleges, and they just go watch this YouTube thing. And it's wild that show has lived on in that way because you can watch it.
It definitely is. I'll tell you
online.
what, Laura, I hate to cut you off there, but we are out of time. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
All right. Thank you.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville. 96.1 FM Taylorville. 107.5 FM